I don't actually know if I ever saw Toy Story 2 all the way through as a child. I recently watched and reviewed Toy Story 1 for what I'm considering the first time as an adult, but certainly I'd seen that as a child. I had a Buzz Lightyear doll. I was a fan, even though I don't really remember being a fan. But Toy Story 2, although I was vaguely aware of the premise, couldn't really recall a lot of it. I liked it. It's not as good as Toy Story 1, and they don't, the novelty of all of these different toys and brand names like Mattel and Hasbro, all of that's worn off now. And I think that's a shame because that's one of the things that made it fun and childlike and unique and exciting. This one's much more of an adventure because Woody Woody has gone on a little journey of his own. So the film was released in 1999, directed by John Lasseter, Ash Brannon, and Lee Unrich, and starred our fantastic voice cast with the first film: Tom Hanks as Woody, Tim Allen as Buzz, personal favourite John Ratzenberger as Hamm, and also Kelsey Grammer as the Prospector. Nice little Hamm and Prospector Cheers reunion there. The narrative itself is pretty interesting. Woody is accidentally stolen. He is accidentally placed at a yard sale and stolen by a toy collector. Buzz and the other toys witness this and make it their mission to track Woody down and rescue him before it's too late. So we have a little adventure story here. The fact that he is stolen by a toy collector is ample opportunity for us to meet some new toys. Now, I was actually quite disappointed by how many new toys we saw, because when we are spending time at the toy collector's store, we don't actually get to meet that many different toys. Obviously, we get to meet our new character Jessie, voiced by Joan Cusack, and the Prospector, voiced by Kelsey Grammer. But I feel like there could have been scope for a lot more interesting and unique collectible toys to come to life at that point, and they kind of didn't really milk that as much as I'd hoped they'd done. But we do get things like Barbie, and one of my favourite scenes is when we go down the Buzz Lightyear aisle, and Buzz meets the other Buzzes, and we get a glimpse of what Buzz Lightyear used to be like before he realised that he was a toy and before he became Woody's best friend, but presumably Andy's as well. And it's quite interesting to have that contrast between the new Buzz Lightyear, who's well aware of who he is and the fact he is a toy, and the Buzz Lightyear fresh out of the box, who still thinks he is an astronaut. And it's really fascinating, and I love the contrast between the two. It really is really very well done. Rex, I thought, was brilliant in this. I can't really fault it specifically. There's nothing about this that I would say that should have been done differently, or that should have been done differently. As I said, with regards to the amount of new toys that we get to see, I feel like they could have done better, but what was done wasn't bad, it just wasn't as good as it could have been. The pacing was fine. The way in which Buzz went about conducting this adventure to get Woody back made sense. I thought it worked quite well, and the development, the pacing was really good. It's worth mentioning that Andy is barely in this. He's in it at the beginning, he's in it a little later on, and that's quite different to the first film when he was in it quite a lot and played a big role in where the toys ended up and who they interacted with. This one's very much more about the toys taking charge, which is something I like to see. I thought that was quite an interesting approach. The soundtrack, obviously You Got a Friend in Me, can't really fault it. It's not as fun or as quirky as the first film. It's not as unique. It doesn't have as many kind of little things in the background to look at. The attention to detail is not as good as it was with the first film. But that's okay, because the first film really is absolutely phenomenal, and the sequels I never expect to be as good. Maybe it's a bit more emotional and a bit more meaningful, and the journey that Woody goes on both physically and emotionally with discovering his past is definitely more meaningful, and Buzz stepping up to the plate as Woody's friend, I thought that was done quite very well. So yes, more emotional, more meaningful in that respect, but not as fun or as cute or as quirky with as much attention to detail. So depending what you're looking for from it, you might prefer this to the first film. Personally, I prefer the first film, but by no means is Toy Story 2 a bad sequel.